Breakfast. I'm Tom Vasel, your host, and I'm just excited because it's the month of December, and I'm seeing Christmas lights put up, and it's just a great time getting lots of gaming in, and there's no convention, so it is really fun. Folks, I hope you watched a lot of our stuff from last week. Don't forget to check out our sister video to this, the Week in Review, if you want to see all the games that we put out last week. We also put out our top 10 surprises of 2015 if you've missed that. And also I tried something new. I put out an enhanced version of our audio podcast. If you've never listened to the podcast that Eric and I put out, we're still going to do that one audio, of course, but I just put it on video just to see if anybody would be interested in watching it that way. Basically just an audio show, but it put some pictures in the background. All right. Well, here's the thing. We will be doing the Dice Tower Kickstarter in January, and I'm not here really to talk about that, but people have been asking for it, so I'm telling you now. January 7th, 2016, we will be doing a marathon live game playthrough. I don't know how long it will be. There will probably be incentives. We'll start at a certain time length, and then you guys will see how long it goes based on what you guys do. But that's going to be on the 7th on Thursday, so we'll be doing that, and we will be having Eric Summerer join us for that. So I hope that is fun for you guys to watch. We're starting to work on that, schedule it so that it's somewhat interesting for you to see, but that's something that you might look forward to, or maybe just avoid entirely. That's up to you. Hey folks, let's get to the news. Okay, the biggest news, I think, is the fact that Gen Con is expanding in size. Just last week, we got the news that we got a booth at Gen Con. Not only did we get a booth, but our booth doubled in size. Yes, I thought, wow, we beat out other people. This is exciting. Well, it was easy for them to add us because they are making that exhibition hall much larger. I'm talking like, it looks like they're adding room for scores of new booths. They are going to be using the Lucas Oil Stadium, so they're going to be moving True Dungeon over to that, and I think True Dungeon will become an area for open gaming, or not open, but like the scheduled gaming and things. Then part of the scheduled gaming room will be taken up by the exhibition hall. That exhibition halls are already big. This is just going to make the thing massive. Going to be very intriguing to see how that works. Asmodee has announced that they have some games coming out in Q1. Prophecy of Dragons, which is the third expansion for Time Stories. Mule, they'll be bringing. And then the first expansions for the popular game Nations Dynasty. Rio Grande has announced a game about Oktoberfest called, Oktoberfest. That's interesting. Rio Grande hasn't done many original games over the past several years, but they are doing some, and this is one of them. Tide of Iron was sold by Fantasy Flight years ago to 1A Games, a small company that seemed to pop up just to print Tide of Iron, although they did make a game called Crosshairs, which no one should ever play. Tide of Iron, they've seemed very exciting, very enthusiastic, but they have not really seemed to fulfill their latest Kickstarter. Things haven't gone well, and Fantasy Flight has Tide of Iron back. Will Fantasy Flight do anything with the Tide of Iron license? I'm not seeing it. I think they're just going to let it fade into obscurity. And 1A Games, I think you're going to see them disappear off the map completely. Steve Jackson released reports from 2014. Yes, that's right. Not 2015, but 2014, in which they made $8.5 million. That's interesting because most companies don't release the reports of how much they made. I do know how much several companies make, and I'll tell you, Steve Jackson is in the upper tier with $8.5 million. They said in 2014 that they would have done better had they not put so much energy into the Ogre reprint. That's pretty obvious. And, of course, most of the profits come from Munchkin. Speaking of which, they have a new Munchkin coming out. Jared mentioned this last week, Marvel Munchkin. I like Marvel, but yes, hard pass. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, though, I'm going to look at just because that's one of my favorite comedy movies there is. All right, Osprey. They've been doing they're a newer game company, have been producing several games over the past year. They've announced that they're going to be printing Escape from Colditz. Now, this game was originally from 1973. I've actually not played this, but I've seen it being played as essentially a World War II. Think of The Great Escape as a movie where some people are escaping from prison. I have heard that it's good, but it needed to have some updates. I wonder if Osprey will include those in the game. And Catacombs, the flicking game. We know there's an expansion coming out called Wyverns of Wylamar, maybe? They've also said that they're going to be making a card game based on that system, and then a new standalone game in that universe. Both of those are interesting, but I gotta admit, I'm the most excited for the Wyverns thing. Hey folks, I'm Vasel here.
Jason Levine.
Today we have a question that says, do you use handicap rules when you play games? When you play new players, do you destroy them in a game? How do you handle when playing, let's say you're playing Ticket to Ride against someone for the first time? I don't know about Jason, but if I played someone new in Ticket to Ride, I can almost guarantee I'm going to win. Unless they get really lucky somehow or other. But I mean, because the experience matters there. And then the heavier the game, the more experience matters. So what do you do in that instance? How do you handicap yourself? Or do you just beat them and then hope they get better?
I never heard about handicapping in board games. I know in golf there's
handicaps in like Go. There's a certain number of stones.
In Go, yes, you're right. In Go,
in chess, you can handicap yourself by saying, "Hey, I'll take a piece off. I won't have my rook."
I guess that's true. I would have never done that in chess. In Go, I do understand how you could do it. But in general in board games, no, I don't handicap. I mean, you should always play your best. You shouldn't play down to someone else, because if you do that, they're going to have one experience where they think, oh, it's so easy to be competitive, and then if they play with a different group and they get crushed, they're going to be like more depressed later, I think. I know people say that, like, when I play with new people or when I played with like girlfriends and tried to get them into gaming, they said, well, how come you beat her in the first game? You should let her win so she'll like it more. And I don't think winning or losing means as much to liking it as much as the experience.
Yes, but I agree you should not necessarily let someone win, but I don't know that destroying someone brutally is a fun experience for that person.
No, but what I like to do with new players is play games that kind of have a balance. Burger Joint, that's one of the games that I like to play for new players, because it's sort of like Settlers of Catan, but it's simple. It's a two-player game, and one person's building hamburger joints, one person's building pizza joints, and it kind of leads to an even gameplay. And I think that's important when you're playing with someone new, is to play a game with them that will lead towards a more even gameplay regardless of skill level.
What I do to handicap myself, because I will handicap myself, is I will try strategies that I don't normally play. I have many games in which I have very specific strategies that I like to try, and some I know work very well. And if I'm playing someone new at these games, or especially new folk, I'll try something completely different. Take Twilight Struggle. I know kind of sort of what strategies work there and what don't work there. In Twilight Struggle, the person who's played before has a huge advantage. And I'll even mention, I'll point out things to my opponent. Like, for example, if they're playing the communist players in Twilight Struggle, I might say, you probably shouldn't work really hard at trying to take Japan over, because there's a card in the game that lets me take that back from you just hands down. Okay? And to help them out and point things out, I think helps. And yeah, that handicaps me because I'm giving away things, but they were handicapped to begin with coming in not knowing the game.
Yes.
So I might try in this game, I've never tried for this alternate weird victory route. I'm going to try for that this time and see if I can pull it off. And that, I find, since I'm not playing with my normal strategies, will handicap me somewhat.
Well, the second part of what you said, I don't call it a handicap, but I do, when I'm playing with new players, I do like to show them strategies and say, if you do this, it's a better move for this reason. And I like to help people in that regard. I think that's important. It's not necessarily handicapping yourself, but it's also giving other people the better strategy so they will learn the game and understand how to play it better.
Alrighty, what do you guys think? Tell us in the comments. And hey, as always, we need more questions. Send them to dicetower@gmail.com.
So I know here on Whitleypedia we usually like to joke and kid around and have a good time, but honestly, for my own personal gaming life, I'm ending the year on a very sour note. My friendly local game store, the one I've been going to at least once a week for the last 5 years, has closed its doors for the last time. The Game Parlor in Chantilly, Virginia was a mainstay of gaming in the area for over 20 years, giving its start in the heyday of the comic book boom and the birth of Magic the Gathering, when the money flowed freely and gamers had nowhere else to get their fix. The store had come on hard times in recent years. I don't think it ever really adapted to the new internet-based economy. Regardless, it was a great store, very inviting, and run by the kindest owners you could imagine. I started going there because it was 10 minutes from my work at the time, and even though I haven't had that job for a year, I still made the trek out to the Game Parlor through crazy DC traffic at least once a week. I honestly don't know what's going to happen with my own board game group. Some of us will go to one store, some of us to another, and some of us will just be lost in time. Like tears in the rain. To the people I gamed with there, I'd like to say, although I love that group more than almost anything in the world, I have decided to step down and spend more time with my family. I do not fear the unknown. I will meet my new challenges head on, and I will succeed, and I will laugh in the faces of those who doubt me. It's been a pleasure playing with some of you, and I will not forget those of you soon. But remember, while today it is me, someday we all shall fall.
Oh, the internet's already here. Hello there. Welcome back to the Game Plan. I'm Andrew Cohen. It's that time of year again, the holidays. Just making some more lists. This year I've got cousins coming up, and I'm real excited to play some games with them. Some of them we've played, some of them we haven't. Here are several of our favorites. Here we have some games that have worked really well with my non-gamer cousins. There are no other order except for box size. First off, we got the knuckle-breaking Jungle Speed. Next, we got the Screamathon Pit. And just a little pointer, you might want to skip the bell with the little ones. Next up, we got Timeline, not so cleverly hidden in the King of Tokyo expansion box. Next, we got the classic Trick Taker Diamonds. Here we got the Push Your Luck Temple Delver Ink and Gold. Now we have the worse you draw, the more fun it is to illustrations. And we're setting up our annual tournament for this competitive literal dice chucker, Tumbling Dice. And finally, but wait, there's more. No, seriously, there's more. Here we have some games that, although I haven't been able to get to with the cousins yet, hope that they're a big success with them. First off, we got the new card game Port Royal. I've heard some really good reviews about this one. Next, we got the job interview game Fun Employed. Now, we have the word game that everybody's heard about at this point, Codenames. Although I have played this next one with my family, I hope it's really good with the younger cousins. And finally, we have the Western Shoot 'em Up Disc Flicker, Flick 'em Up. Well, we've got a lot of games to play. I'll report back on how the new ones went with my family. Until then, this is Andrew Cohen, and this has been The Game Plan. Back to that top 100 list.
Hi, welcome to Painting Miniatures 101. Now, the second most question I ever get asked is, what kind of brushes should I get? Let's go to the table and take a look. Now, today we're talking about brushes. What I like to do is usually go down and get one of these fine touch brush sets. First of all, I find that they're inexpensive at $7.99, but also the best part about them is that you get an assortment of different types of brushes. The most important thing is not to get a bristle brush. Bristle brushes are good, but not for the type of miniatures that we paint. What you really want to do is get nylon, because if you have a bigger monster, such as our little friend from Blood Rage, you want to be able to smother a lot of paint in little time. Or if you have fine detailing, you would like a nice 3/0, for those fine little edges. Wash brushes also usually come with a nice rounded tip, which are perfect for getting in the small crevices and into the recesses to cover with a good wash. And also you get an assortment of just all types of different brushes depending on what type of projects you have. These flat brushes here are usually good for painting tanks or vehicles. But the best thing is to just get the brushes that you can gain the most control with. And I find a brush that is short and very sharp pointed is very easy to control when painting. And there you have it, everything that you need to know about brushes. And also, for an extended look, go to my channel, Robert Oren, for an extended look on how to use brushes. Until next time, we'll see you.
Well, first of all, we're going to continue our look back at 2015 this week by taking a look back at our top 10 gaming experiences of 2015. Then you'll see our live playthrough if you want to watch the spoilers version of our playing Time Stories Marcy. We're going to be doing a live gaming this week, the Battling Brushes Age, Sam versus Rob in Age of Sigmar. They're going to be playing that. And lots of reviews from myself, Tricarion, The Undercity, Adventureland, Spookies, Flashlights and Fireflies, Race to the North Pole, Ghost Bliss 2, Floating Market. There's a lot of things that I'm excited to show you guys coming this week. You're also going to see a couple of interesting videos. Look for our video about battling tops and possibly a blooper video. And then, of course, just a lot of other stuff, really. A lot coming this week. It's December. It's time to just pump that content out. Let's keep going. Of course, I should remember to remind you to check out Dicetower.com. There's lots of podcasts there in our network and our own podcast. Check it all out there.
Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here, and as one who has been known to enjoy immersing oneself in a board game, I was intrigued when the opportunity arose last month at Board Game GeekCon to participate in a truly interactive game of sorts, something called an escape room. Now, what is an escape room? Well, it's like an interactive mystery where a group of players is put into a recreated real-world environment with a time limit and no obvious way out. The team then has to work together to discover clues that, when pieced together correctly, will guide them towards the puzzle's solution and their freedom. And there's many different types of escape rooms with different themes becoming available. From performing an investigative search of rooms for clues, to solving a series of riddles, to even trying to stay ahead of a zombie that's creeping ever closer and closer and closer to you to devour you. Some puzzles are mathematical, some are logical, and some require deductive reasoning. In the escape room that my group participated in, we played the part of private investigators, given just 1 hour to ransack a suspect's apartment in order to find the clues necessary to solve a murder case that had long since gone cold. We had to comb through bookshelves, break into a safe, hack our way onto an iPad, discover and traverse a secret passage, assemble three-dimensional puzzles, and more. It was really neat. Now, is an escape room an activity that is relevant to a board gamer? Well, I think absolutely. I mean, in fact, the problem-solving skills developed by board gaming can help give you an edge, is something that I would say if my team of fellow board gamers and I had completed ours with more than just a few seconds left on the clock. I mean, we succeeded, but just barely. Escape rooms seem to be popping up in more and more cities, and so they're not just held at conventions. In fact, the one that we did wasn't even at BGGCon itself, but an actual dedicated escape room company about 10 to 15 minutes away. Now, if you have an escape room in your area, or the next time you attend BGGCon, I highly recommend checking it out. It's a unique, interactive experience that I think board gamers can certainly appreciate. Just be sure to set your decryptogram machine correctly.
Hi, this is Berkey from Board Game Theater and the Berkey and Badger Board Game Babble Show. And today, we're talking about my shelf of shame. What do I mean by the shelf of shame? The shelf of shame is a place where games reside that I have yet to play. Of course, I have my many reasons and justifications. I recently was at BGGCon and did a math trade. But for some reason, that acquired more games that I have not yet played. And of course, there are other justifications, like a little thing called work. Yes, and there's many other things. I've been given games, and I have another, it's been coined acquisition disorder. What to do? Well, I've come up with a solution. The illustrious rotundness of Tom Vasel has stated that he is going to make a personal challenge of losing weight. And I thought to myself, I can't compete, but I thought I could do one thing. I can attack my shelf of shame. For every pound, Tom Vasel, that you lose, I shall play a game on my shelf of shame. This is the challenge, whether it be weight or whether it be game. Seriously, anybody else had this problem? Just can't get enough time to play games that you'd like to get, or have acquired more games than you really can get to the table, or you have that pesky little, when that new expansion comes out and you just, I really have to have that, or that Kickstarter hits? Tell us in the comments your experience with this and how you deal with this. Is it time to cull your collection? Is it time to just take more time to be intentional to play games with your friends and family? This is Berkey from Board Game Theater. Let the games begin.
Hey folks, Tom is rude. Well, last week I said Tom is fat. So is this like the week of the month of my confessions? Not quite so. But this comes in response to a tweet that someone tweeted me a couple weeks ago, basically saying something to the effect of, hey, you should spend a couple seconds responding to tweets, favoriting tweets, retweeting tweets, responding to tweets. It's only a couple seconds for you, but it makes all the difference in the person that you responded to. Okay, well, yes, I do know that, and I do know that interaction is a big deal. And we hope that the Dice Tower is always a place where you can come and, especially at conventions, feel like you can walk up to us and talk to us. You can email us. You can post in our forums and all sorts of things. But we might not always respond. In fact, sometimes we don't even want to respond. And that is where the "you're rude" part comes in. Now, I'm very fortunate that I can read very quickly. I can read about 1,500 words a minute. So I can read all the YouTube comments that are posted on our channel. I can read all the posts on our forums, and I read all the emails that people send to me. And if I might be somewhat humble here, the Dice Tower has certainly grown over the past years. We're now getting millions of views, thousands of comments, hundreds of emails, sometimes in one day, and lots of things through Twitter and Facebook. And there's a lot to keep track of. And yes, I have people who are working for me, Sam and Z, and helping out, and we got lots of volunteers and stuff, but we certainly can't respond to everything. We really can't. Because if we did spend our time responding to everything that we get, then we wouldn't actually do our jobs. We wouldn't actually review the games, and that's kind of why people watch the show, I would hope. Now, I know that there's some sort of interaction and people like that back and forth, and we can do that as much as we can, but that must, in necessity, take a lower priority than to us actually doing our jobs. Now, let's go on scale. The President of the United States does not respond to every letter and email he gets, nor does anyone expect him to. He probably doesn't even read most of those because he has a very important job that he must do. I'm not comparing my job to his. I'm not even saying it's remotely comparable other than in size of scale. Now, we get lots of responses, lots of tweets, and lots of emails. And sometimes I'll get long emails from someone pouring their heart out about this and gaming and how much Dice Tower. And I send back an email sometimes that says, hey, thanks, I appreciate this email. And that seems kind of petty and small compared to the length that they had. But, and someone said, like I said originally, they said it only takes a few seconds to respond. It doesn't only take a few seconds to respond. It takes minutes to respond. And when you take these minutes and multiply this times hundreds, and so you have hours and hours in a day, and that becomes another job. I mentioned my priorities. My priorities are my family and my church. Those are very high priorities for me. The putting out reviews and doing my job here is a high priority for me. Social media, not as high of a priority. And again, that comes off as rude because there are people for who social media is everything. There are social butterflies in social media, and I've seen them. They get the conventions, and everyone knows everyone else because they respond here and they talk to here, and they write tweets here, and they're funny on Facebook here, and they go back and forth. And I could do that, but the number one question I'm always asked by people is, how do you get so much done? And the number one reason really is that I'm not as involved with social media. I like Facebook and I like Twitter, and you can spend hours on those things, hours and hours, and pretty much be on them all the time. And I think they're very useful tools, and the Dice Tower will continue to use them. But if I went in there and was constantly responding to other people and going back and forth and having long extended conversations there, again, we would not get as much stuff done. And for me, it's critical that we get this stuff done, because this is what matters, is to have that content out there. We do want to respond, and I'll try to respond to every email, but I can't promise that I will, and many times we won't. If you send me a question for the show, I'll stick it in a box and we will eventually answer that, but I won't respond and say all these things. When we have contests, I can't respond to everything. I could make up scripts and send you, like a "Dear Sir, Madam, thank you for emailing our show" type thing. But I don't want to do that. I want there to be the personal touch. When I do email you, I want you to know that it comes from me. When I do tweet, you'll know, hey, Tom said that. Or when we put something up at Facebook or comment on a YouTube thing, we just can't do it all the time. And you know what? I feel like a jerk for doing that. I feel like a jerk for even saying this now. I'm not telling you not to comment or to email us or do that. In fact, do it more. But realize that we may not respond every time. In fact, we probably won't respond most of the time. We're certainly cognizant of what everyone says, but we can't answer every question. If you email me and say, hey, Tom, what do you think of 504? Well, I've already done a review on 504. You can go see that. If you say, Tom, do you think I should get Descent or Star Wars Imperial Assault? Well, I did reviews on both of them. I think you should watch those, and you should do that. I'm not a game sommelier or a concierge to help people hunt down games. That sounds like a good job and a fun thing, and I could do it maybe in my spare time, but the fact is stuff like that takes a while. When someone says to me, hey, Tom, have you reviewed 504? I could say, yes, send. Or I can pause everything I'm doing. I can go hunt down, find the link for my review of 504 and send it to him. Or I could just type out a whole bunch of reasons why I like 504. But both those second options take up a lot of time. And even though they might seem like small amounts of time, when added together, that would essentially shut me down from getting stuff done. There are people out there who are amazing at connecting with people, and that is the best thing they are. My hope is that I can connect with people on a larger scale through the videos and through talking to them through my live Q&As. And if you come up and talk to me at a convention, I will take time to say hello to you, because it's important that me and you have some sort of connection. I'm just not going to respond to all your tweets, and for that, I apologize. It may make me look like a jerk, but hopefully in the long run, it will make the Dice Tower better.
Hello and welcome everybody. Today it's another day for the best and the worst. My name is Niels, Cyril's Brettspiele durchgespielt, and today we are talking about one of my favorite solitary games ever, Mage Knight the board game. My favorite part on Mage Knight the board game is that it's technically a solitary game. So you can easily play it as a solitary game. You draw a couple of cards, try to solve this puzzle on your hand, because it's a deck builder. You try to solve what can I max out with my cards on my hand to not expend too much time or losing time in walking around. You wanted to go here, snack, slay him down. Next turn you wanted to go here and here, slay him down. That's exactly what the worst part on that game is. When you play this with more than one or two player, the downtime could be dramatically. Later on in the game, when you face dragons and other more dangerous creatures, then you have to also these advanced abilities, and this triggers with that, or that with that, and that with this. So you always have to read and maximize out your hand cards, and you get more hand cards, draw more hand cards, things like that, which means this game encourages AP, and when it's not your turn, you have a lot of downtime, especially if you're playing this game with serious AP players. Please message me, send me comments, whatever you want, and tell me your favorite or worst things on Mage Knight the board game. This was another time. Niels, Cyril's Brettspiele. See you next time. Bye bye.
Hello, Dice Tower. thought I'd give you a quick tour of our game room. So let's step inside. We have our Derby Glass collection, and we have our Holinsky Brothers Crokinole board. We have our map of the United States with pins on all the places we've visited, and larger pins on places that we've hiked. I'll let you guess where we live. We have our tumbling dice board. Make sure we've got plenty of natural light. Over here, it might be hard to see with the lighting. These were our table numbers for our wedding, actually. Up at the top's Forbidden Island. I'll go ahead and show you our games. We actually keep them in the closet. That is a sign that my wife made using game pieces. It looks pretty nice. It's our roll the dice dice tray. Let's take a look at the games. All right, so we've got some of the bigger games up top. You can see there. We use Billy bookcases. Sorry, Tom, these are much better than your Expedit shelves. Just go down real quick. You can take a quick look. So these are like our big Ticket to Ride size games. Then we have the medium size boxes. And then some trays at the bottom here. And finally, this is actually basically a CD rack we used for the smaller games. Okay, and here is our board game table with the cover taken off. We got the chairs from World Market, and we got the table from BoardGameTables.com. We are very happy with it. Please ignore the cats. Got some cup holders and some drawers. Really nice playing surface, very sturdy, much better than what we used to have. We just got it a few weeks ago, and we have really enjoyed playing games on it. So I hope you've enjoyed the tour, and with that, I think it's time to shut the door.
Hi, Suzanne here with this week's featured board game app. Now, if you're lucky enough or cursed enough to see the live show from BGGCon, then you saw me talk about dominant species with the help of my friends Chaz, Marty, and Tony. But I thought that some of you still might like to see some of the actual app in action, so let's take a quick look. Dominant Species is a big game with a lot of pieces that can seem intimidating, but at its heart, it's a pretty straightforward Euro-style game in which you vie for domination over an ever-changing board of territories. It's not about being the only species, it's about being dominant and managing the resources in a given territory. But with all of those moving pieces and a bunch of different actions and abilities available, the app had a daunting task to make it manageable and consumable on a small screen. And initially, I think they failed. But with a complete overhaul of the app in June 2015, GMT and developer Game Theory have brought a solid dominant species app experience to the iPad. The rules are broken into chapters, and there's a great tutorial that walks you through the gameplay and the interface, so yeah, I think you can learn the game from the app. And speaking of interface, I'm pretty happy with how the info is displayed on screen or available with just one tap. Some smart choices were made here. And there's some nice flexibility with game setup too. It looks like online play is in the works, which will be excellent because the AI is okay, but not great, as shown by the fact that I can beat it. But overall, GMT can be proud of this app, as it looks and plays well and really scratches that heavier game itch for a tablet game. If you have an iPad, I definitely recommend you give Dominant Species a try.
Season's greetings, Internet. No matter what your faith, the holiday season is upon us, and we're hoping that if you are in a gift-giving mood, you're going to consider spending some of your fortune to help children who are less fortunate. Now, every December 25th, thousands of children around North America and the rest of the world wake up to find that no jolly old elf has paid them a visit. There's no brightly colored package waiting to be unwrapped. Chances are there is a toy drive in your community. Now, most of them are for Christmas, but there are Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and Ramadan toy drives as well. Now, your nearest one might be run by a religious organization, or it might be a secular charity. Either way, their goal is to brighten the lives of less fortunate children, and I think that's something that we can all get behind. Every year, generous donors like you buy toy cars and teddy bears and dolls, and that is fantastic. But at the same time, there's a seriously underserved demographic, and that is teens and tweens. People who donate to toy drives just don't think about that group of children as children and the target of their charity. So, if you're thinking about giving to a toy drive this year, we'd like you to think about giving a game. While a toy will entertain a single child, a game can entertain an entire family, possibly for years to come. And if that game gives a young person something to do after school, it helps keep them out of trouble and prevents them from becoming just another statistic. Now, are games going to solve all of society's problems? No, of course not. They're not miracles. But the right game in the hands of the right child at the right time can make a world of difference. It doesn't have to be something huge like Star Wars Imperial Assault. It can be a small game. Iota, Spot It, Bonanza. No matter what you give, your generosity could change someone's life.
And that's it for today's Board Game Breakfast. I want to shout out to a couple sponsors for Jonathan Evans, who wants people to know that more people want more Z. Garcia. Thanks, sir. This show is also partially supported by Mark Nixarlian. So thank you guys for supporting us in the Kickstarter. Hey, folks. Lots of stuff coming out this week. Check out our Battling Tops video. I'll be doing a live Q&A later today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hopefully some of you will come by and ask some questions then. And we got some more top 10s record. Watch our videos this week. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at CoolStuffInc.com.